Are we recording? We are recording. Okay. Welcome to, I think, session 12 of the BDCC Business Resiliency sessions, webinar sessions. Today is an abbreviated session because at 3 o'clock, the ACCD is having a webinar to cover the recently announced Vermont Economic Recovery Grants. In the spirit of providing people with some Zoom relief, we thought we'd, try to do an abbreviated session. My goal is to cover, some of the highlights. We'll get an update from Erica Campbell from Senator Sanders' office and the representatives from the Wyndham delegation that are with us today who have worked so hard to help put together these packages. I'm going to start with some, well, I try to remain upbeat, but, and I'm reading from CNN. There were 50,655 new coronavirus cases reported nationwide on Wednesday. It's a single-day record. So, we're entering into new territory, and it just reminds me that I'm thankful we have leadership through our legislators and both locally and federally, as well as a governor that is mindful of what we need to do here in the state to keep each other safe. With that comes some of these programs for economic recovery. I am just referring to I'm going to get a little bit organized here. I'm not going to go over Zoom. I think we all know Zoom well enough. But if you have a question, I'll just say, use in the participants tab or in the chat tab, actually. You can use the raise hand icon. Why I'm not seeing my full menu, so I'm not sure why that is. Oh, so the state has released through a couple of bills, S350 as well as H966. The first tranche is going to be for businesses that have suffered a 75% or greater loss. Just real quickly, some of the eligibility requirements are: it's got to be a domiciled Vermont business. Here has one or more non-owner employees. There will be a program coming out for single-member LLCs as well as sole proprietors, but that's not out yet. The operation has to be open and active by February 15, 2020, and open at the time of the application. So businesses that have revenues between, I think it's 10,000 and up to 20 million would be eligible. Then there's a second tranche. So that bucket with 75% loss was covered under the S350 bill, and then under the 966 bill, the drop in revenue goes to 50%. So there's a little more elbow room there with the same criteria, I believe. So the businesses that suffered the most will go under that first round, and then other folks will move into the second round. And please, if my language is not quite accurate, please someone correct me in a bit. And then for award determination, so these will be administered through the Department of Taxes, and I am going to, where are we? I'm going to post in the chat the URL. So that's where you'll start the process, and it's going to be a calculation of 10% of your annual gross revenues, combined total sales as reported on your meals and rooms or sales and use taxes in 2019 with a maximum ceiling grant of $50,000. And I'm going to also post in the chat the link to the ACCD site that covers this information in more detail. And there's a good frequently asked question section. And at the bottom, I want to highlight that at the bottom of that page that I just posted, there's a section that answers for businesses, what can they be doing now? So over the holiday weekend, what documents should you be thinking about gathering and putting together? So that could be a valuable resource for folks. Oh, okay, so something's not posting. Oh, you know what? I'm sending it to a specific person. Sorry. You would think. Okay, so that is the tax department's site, and I will put on the ACCD link right now. Thank you to my colleague Jennifer for letting me know that my messages weren't going through. So, okay, I want to jump to our guests. So why don't we turn to Erica Campbell first. I'm going to unmute your phone, and can you do a test to see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Cool, and no echo, which is great.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so I think, I'm sorry to jump in, but I think, well, I should just let you go because you're probably going to cover what I was thinking about anyway.
Well, I don't know if I am. But I did want to mention that Fauna Hurley's on the phone from Congressman Welch's office, or actually on the computer as well. So I will have her go right after me. I don't have too much to report today. I have been watching Twitter and waiting to see if the president has signed an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, because on Tuesday night, the Senate passed an extension until August 8th, and the House, I think, approved that unanimously last night. So, again, we saw a pretty big decline in interest in the PPP. We were getting some businesses trickling in, and we certainly heard from a small handful of businesses that were, oh no, the deadline came and we wanted to apply. So this is great for them. I don't know how, I imagine that this would probably be the last time it's extended, just because there has been such a decline nationally in the program, unless they opened it up for people that had already applied again. I think that's my only real update on the PPP. I expect the president to sign it, so perhaps that program PPP would be open by lenders again on Monday even. So the only other thing I think I could mention, and again, this isn't really, I don't know if this has been rolled out in Vermont yet, but may be helpful for some bigger businesses that weren't eligible for the PPP. There's a Main Street lending program that the Federal Reserve is running, and so the Boston Fed would be doing it for our region, and it is a loan from, I think the minimum is like $250,000 and the maximum is big, like $35 million, and it has it has deferment for a couple of years. I think I have some details. I don't want to tell you incorrectly here. So it's the Main Street New Loan Facility. The loan is called, and it's a 5-year maturity. Minimum loan is $250,000, max $35 million, and the principal payments deferred for 2 years and interest payments deferred for 1 year. So, this would be, and you have to have 15,000 employees or fewer and $5 billion or less in revenue. So I'm assuming that would cover any business in Vermont. So anyway, another option, and I did check in with Chris Daly about this, and he wasn't sure if any lenders in Vermont have started to offer it, but he assumes some will. So if you have constituents with bigger businesses in your region that weren't eligible for the PPP, this might be an option. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's the extension or the reopening is what I had in mind. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yep.
Okay, great. Is there any new information? There's a question in the chat. Is there any new information about the short form application for PPP forgiveness? Are you still seeing that there is no option with that form to get 100% loan forgiven? There's no option. No, Sarah, I'm going to have to come back to you. I don't know if anyone on the call can answer that directly. If I'll wait for a hand to go up, but your question is noted, and thank you for that question. I think now I'm going to turn to our regional delegation. We have a great turnout, so thank you so much. And I just wanted to give folks an opportunity to, you're coming out of session, so you're probably trying to wind down a little bit. I don't know if that's possible. But okay, sorry, I'm seeing some heads shake. You know, going into these ACCD webinars, since this information and deliberations are so fresh for you, you know, I'm hoping maybe you can just say a few comments, think of it as maybe 3 to 5 bullets about some of the things that are top of mind that you think might be important to businesses to be looking for in these programs, or touch on, you know, some of the work that is important to you and close to you, and you want folks to know about. The first person in my line of sight is Representative Kornheiser, so I'm gonna unmute you.
Thank you.
I think you're open. Yeah, go ahead.
I am. Yeah. Fauna, did you want to add anything from the federal perspective before I jump in?
Yeah, thank you, Representative
Sure,
Kornheiser.
I can be pretty brief. Hello, everyone. I'm Fauna Hurley from Congressman Welch's office.
Great.
The big update from us is the infrastructure bill, HR2, the Moving Forward Act, was just passed this week. It's a huge, huge bill, $1.5 trillion. And there's a laundry list, to be frank, of items here. And I won't go into much detail, but I'll give you a quick high level, and if you'd like more information, I'm happy to provide you with the information. But essentially, it is there's money, about $500 billion in there, to rebuild highways, bridges, transit, rail, airports. It is going to add about $130 billion to invest in rebuilding and reopening schools and modernizing energy infrastructure. Lots of climate change initiatives in here, providing jobs that are around improving climate change initiatives, affordable housing, about $100 billion in there to reduce housing inequality. And we'll all really like this one. It will expand affordable high-speed internet to underserved communities, and there's $100 billion in there for that. Upgrades to hospitals and healthcare infrastructure, $30 billion there, and ensuring all communities have access to clean water by investing billions to remove contaminants and upgrade our infrastructure. So there's a lot. That's just a really quick snapshot, but it's exciting for us. So we'll just have to see where it moves from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Fauna,
Yeah, sure.
and apologies for skipping over you. And thank you, Representative Kornheiser, for not letting me do that. So, yeah, go ahead.
And really excited about the possibility of some more money for connectivity. So I hope that goes somewhere. I think RT went through sort of some of the tranches of money. And so I'm going to stay sort of high level and speak to intent, because I think some of the execution is going to sit with the Agency of Commerce and other parts of the administration. And some of it still needs to be figured out. And so with regards to intent, I think as a legislature, we were really balancing the need to get money out the door yesterday to folks who are, businesses that were immediately struggling, and knowing that if we just let all of the money out the door at once in one big package, then it would become a similar sort of, race with the largest businesses with the most capacity getting all the money, and then it would be gone. So really wanted to balance those two issues. And so what we did are these tranches of money. There's the 75% loss, the 50% loss. And then we're also asking for geographic equity within that, which I think is really important for folks to remember down here, as well as there's specific set-asides for women and minority-owned businesses, for arts organizations, for working lands, so that some sectors that might not have as much of a capacity to get in the sort of usual doors to access funds, or might not have strong relationships with the Agency of Commerce, can be seeking this funding through sources that feel more comfortable to them, such as the Working Lands Enterprise Board or the Commission on Women or the Arts Council. And so that is sort of the balance that we tried to strike there. I think it's important to remember that it's not going to be enough to meet the scale of loss. I'm hoping it can be close to enough to meet the scale of need. And so as we look to how we can really encourage you all and encourage businesses to try to use this funding whenever possible to pivot business models. And because we don't know if there's going to be some more funding next year. And we hope there is, but we don't know if there is, and we might be in this for the long haul for rebuilding. So really thinking about this as something that we're trying to spread in as broad-based a manner as possible. And that is an opportunity for whatever next steps might look like, and it might not be business as it's being done. The other thing I want to name is that because we sort of divided money up into these different pots, and there's the 50% and the 75% and all of that, it's going to be confusing for people to navigate. And I personally am sending folks to BDCC to help navigate it, because there is funding that's going to be going to business support folks. And I think the details of that also still needs to be figured out. And whether that's going to go just to the regional development corporations, or if it's also going to go to chambers of commerce and downtown business alliances. And so while the intent of the legislature was to make sure that businesses had the technical assistance that they needed to access these funds and to make those changes, I cannot promise what it's going to look like on the other side of the dollar package, because we can only control what we can control. But I know that BDCC has done a lot of work to stand up that already and is already serving businesses. And so I'm sending folks to BDCC as my first path. And then if folks would be more comfortable with another way of navigating that stuff, then I'm happy to find another path. But it's a lot of details, and we want to make sure that people find the best source of those funds for them, which for a women-owned business might not be the specific pot of money for women-owned businesses. It might be the 75% loss category. So really making sure that people aren't finding the first source that they touch, but in fact, the best possible source for them. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next person in my grid and who will be put on the spot, I see Representative Sibilia. Good afternoon.
I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted now.
Yeah. So I think the only two pieces I would quickly add, given our limited time here. The two pieces that I directly touched were around telecommunications. I'm not sure that folks here, so in terms of businesses that will be able to access those dollars, it will be both the emerging communications union districts as well as existing telecommunications providers, none of whom I see on phone here, but I am happy to speak to any of those folks about how they might access it. The other piece that I was involved with, I am the co-chair of the Rural Economic Development Working Group in the House. Many members of the Windham County delegation are on that. That caucus has typically supported the Working Lands Enterprise and the funding to that. We've taken a lot of testimony over the years about the efficacy of those dollars, the return on investment, the efficiency of getting those out, the known process, something that didn't have to be recreated, stood up, or figured out, known entities. So we did advocate for some dollars to go into the Working Lands Enterprise Board, and there were, I believe in the end, it was 2.5 million that was put from the CARES funds into that. So,
great, thank you, Representative Sibilia. Appreciate it very much. All right, the next person in my grid, I see Representative Coffey.
Great. Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here with you. And I just have a little bit to add, and I know we all want to get on this, the ACCD webinar. The piece, I think actually for Working Lands, there was another additional $1 million from the budget adjustment. So it's a total of $3.5 million for Working Lands, Laura, that we got, which is, we know is, I represent 2 rural communities, Guilford and Vernon, and we know that those dollars are really important to help our businesses recover, but also to adapt their farming and business practices. So the piece, I'll be real quick here, the piece that I had a little bit of involvement with is we advocated for a specific fund of $5 million for the nonprofit arts sector in the state, working closely with the Vermont Arts Council and a number of my colleagues. So as RT and has suggested, and Representative Kornheiser suggested too, is like there's a bit of confusion, and we're trying to get these dollars out quickly. For the folks who are in the nonprofit arts economy, those dollars will go through ACCD, but the Arts Council has been involved in shaping those guidelines, and we'll be looking, to verify that those dollars are. And we know that, like many sectors of the economy, it doesn't fulfill, there's like $35 million in losses already, as of, and that was in early June. So we know that it's not going to meet all the need, but we hope that it will be a lifeline. And I'm also just, we know that in Windham County that the creative sector is really important. If folks have any challenges navigating some of it, people can feel free to reach out to me. And also the Arts Council has some additional information on their website as well. So I think I'll stop there because I realize we're short on time, but thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Representative Burke.
Hi.
You're live.
Okay. So I'll just, I think most everything has been covered. I'll just talk about a couple of transportation things that sort of relate to the business world. One is that we were able to add $100,000 to the Downtown Transportation Fund, which is funding for small amenities, but that can sort of help to make a downtown more desirable to visit. That fund had been cut after 2008. We've been trying to add more money to it. So we were adding, it's now be up to about $500,000 as opposed to 400,000. Little victory there. And then the sort of interesting $500,000 grant for a microtransit pilot project. A microtransit is a sort of way of thinking about bus service instead of a fixed route, but as a like an Uber type of thing that you call with your actual landline, or you call with your cell phone, or you text or whatever. And there is a pilot that's probably going to happen in Montpelier, and there's another $500,000 in there for for even a town energy committee could apply for a grant to do something like that. So I just think that it could be like a great thing for businesses if people were able to access their places of work conveniently in that way, because a lot of times fixed routes don't really work for everybody. So I think looking at the time, I'll say that's all for now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I do want to thank everyone for being on a call in the session. We do record these, and we do see that folks are viewing them. So I thank you very much. I'm going to paste the ACCD's session information now into the chat. But it can also be found, there's a webinar section to the ACCD page where you can get the URL. I do see that a question came in about currency. I don't know the answer to that at the moment, but we've captured that. We take notes during these calls, and we will try to answer that as best we can. Anyway, but thank you very much. It's good to see everybody, and thank you for all the updates. Take care. See you in the next one. Okay, stop recording.